can make it on the screen. We all good? Okay. Okay, I'm going to assume that's good. So we are recording, and if you just jot down any questions as we go through so that you can ask the questions at the end, there is time at the end for that. So what I'm hoping to cover today is why do we have this thing called a SOF, this school overview file? What's in it? How do schools use it? How is it used between the schools and the executive team, and how you as governors, trustees can use it in your strategic role? That's what I'm aiming to cover. We'll come back to this slide at the end and you can tell me whether we're there or not and what's missing. Okay, so why have we got the SOF then? Clearly accountability is massive within a school, across the trust, so that trustees, governors can see what's going on. There are things in there for Ofsted, and obviously at the trustee level, the regional board is quite important there. And the local authority, if they're asking questions, that might be a place where we'd go. So there's the accountability angle, but there's also self-review. As you fill it in as a leader, you ask yourself questions, go, oh, look, this has gone up, this has gone down. It does help the self-review. It's part of the self-review cycle and the reflection. It allows for scrutiny. It allows for people to evaluate what's happening in the school. Are things improving because of a certain strategy or not? And it raises the awareness of the team as to what's happening. So everybody in the leadership group will have responsibility for completing elements of this and working together as a team to complete elements of this. So they are then collectively responsible for what's going on the SOF. So that's why we have a SOF as a document. But I thought there's a slightly different why do we have the SOF bundled onto an Excel document as we have it? And as we go through this, you'll see there's a range of documents that we've put together in one spot, in one location, rather than, oh, where did school whatever save this Word document of the SEF or the SDP. Brings everything together so you can see it all collectively. Everybody knows where everything is. These are live documents that all the leadership teams will complete and fill in at different times together onto one collective document, and trust staff, the exec team, can also look, you'll see in a moment how that happens, and add to and write upon the document. So it allows for people to all access in one space. You can efficiently look through the tabs and get a real flavour of the whole life of the school. And it's a common format rather than lots of people interpreting documents in different ways and writing them differently. This is a common format. And it's absolutely a collaboration tool. It is a live document. It's not in a cupboard. It's not pulled out just for governors' meetings. And we collaborate through the Teams process, the Teams network. You'll see slightly darker grey at the top middle here, the school review team. And in there you have got all the different schools. So on the left-hand side, each school has got a channel. And I've opened March's here. You can see that there is a SOF, and Teams is great for collaboration. So we have Teams wherever we've got collaboration beyond a school. So the Teams network allows any member of the leadership team in that school to access these documents, but it also allows the exec team in the trust to, through exactly the same route, look at various documents that we've agreed are needing to be shared. So the SOF is one example, and the pillar reports, all you can see on there, is another one, and that's probably another governor session at some other point as we head towards the pillar data coming up at Christmas. So that's what it is and where it is. In terms of the sorry, let me just go back. In terms of the SOF itself, there are three different varieties. They're very similar. I've just used a secondary one as I go through this presentation, but primary has some tiny differences in some places, and again specialist school differences because of the year groups that they're looking at. So if you are looking at some KPI lines, there might be some slight differences, but it's not significant. So there are three different kinds that we have got. So what is inside the SOF then? We've got, these are the picture at the top is the tabs that you'll see on the Excel document. You can see there SEF, SDP, KPI, key performance indicators, the SIR, the school improvement record, category guidance, which is linked to the school improvement record, not the other thing. So the category guidance is tied to the school improvement record, and the exam review, that is as it's given to schools. Some schools do use more than one tab for their school development plan. They don't have to, they've chosen to do that. Some also put into this their pillar reports. So some of the primaries will put in the pillar tabs, and there's possibly 4 or 5 of those tabs. Again, they don't have to. There is a pillar KPI they choose to for how easy the ease of working for them. So you might see in your school the SOF has got many, many more tabs. That's the head teacher's choice and decision. The one you have on the picture there is as it is given to them each year. And each year we look at it, review it, reflect on the categories and tweak. And we've made some tweaks for this year, as I'll go through when we have a look at it. So the SEF then, the school evaluation form, was actually a document that is very old and very well used over the years as a self-contained document. It's been put onto our SOF as the first sort of element, and it's that snapshot, as it says, about the school. The idea is that the school updates this regularly through the year, not too regularly. It's a big document. It takes quite a lot of time for the whole leadership team to stop and think about where they are now. If you've just had exam results, you'd expect it to be updated because you need to reflect how they went and what you're then going to do. If you had an Ofsted inspection, you'd want to go and update it. Your grades may have changed, your areas that you're working on will have changed, and that should be in there. So this is all about where does a school feel it is? What's the local information about the area? What is specific about the school? What do you want to shout about that's a real strength and developments and things that you do in your school that possibly people haven't seen in other schools? It's a real key document for when Ofsted ask for information about a school. It is used as the tool. So when the phone call comes in, this part of the SOF, the SEF, would be used as the sort of checklist for the head to make sure that they're hitting all the things that they want to talk about, that they're proud of in the school, and being honest about where the school is developing itself. So this is the tool for that. It shouldn't be pages and pages long. It should be quite concise. It's very hard to do, but it should be, what are the key strengths and weaknesses? What is it unique about our school that we would like to flag up without being overly long, overly wordy? That's not what it needs to be. So there's possibly some challenge there if you're finding these too long, too wordy. It shouldn't be too onerous, although there is a challenge to make it so. And as I say, it's the tool when Ofsted come for the phone call. So what I've done is taken some screenshots of the key areas on the self-evaluation form on the SOF. You will always get at the top here the sections on what were the priorities from the last inspection, so that should be there, and what you've done about them, what have you done to address them. So that would always need to be seen in the SEF. What are people working on should be picked up. So if you're looking at the targets that Ofsted have set and their recommendations for improvement, you should see in the SEF how a school is responding to them. It should be pretty clear what actions are being taken, and tied with that, the school development plan will list some changes for the year. So it should give a clear picture of what the school's been doing. You've got on this screen as well, the next screen, you've got the something called the IDSR here. The IDSR is the document that the government release every January. There is a release in November as draft data, but really January is when it's released every year. And so some of the information should come from that when it's released, and it should be updated when that's released. So the inspection data summary report, this is the data that the government have got, and it's what the Ofsted inspector would see before they even pick up the phone to the head to tell them they're coming. This is the information that they've got about the school, and they start to make their impressions of what's going on. So that should be on the self-evaluation form. I mean, just checking my notes, check I've got everything. This section then is a summary of the latest scores, obviously, and it's not just about exam data. You can see things like attendance in there, although the attendance and the exclusions from the ISDI is always 2 years out of date. So the school then has the opportunity to explain what's happened in the 2 years that the inspector hasn't been given the information for. They can paint a picture of an improving picture if they've got one, and that's what should be being seen on the SIR. The primary SEF here has got just the Key Stage 2 equivalents for the current profile, same as you can see there for Progress 8, Attainment 8 for a secondary school. Working further down that Excel spreadsheet, then you've got the Ofsted sections, the 4 sections that you'll be used to seeing from an Ofsted handbook and inspection. So we've set out the self-evaluation form in the same format as Ofsted. There's also down the bottom, depending on the school, you might get early years, you'll get sixth form, you will get the SAMIS information as well for Church of England schools on the SEF. So there's various different sections, and you can see areas to consider. We've gone through the handbook, gone through the latest structure, and just put the prompts in for what a school should be focusing in on in that box, and then they fill in their strengths and they fill in their to get to the next level. What is it they're working on? So you should see if Ofsted have given some direction as to what they believe the school should be working on in the to get to the next level sections. There's one here, look for equality of education. You'd expect to see actions that would lead to a change in what Ofsted have seen. So it's worth checking through some of those when you look at those. So that's the self-evaluation form. And as I say, the teams will sit together, probably pull it out onto Word, probably print it off and be scribbling on it periodically when there's big changes in the school, and then re-editing and uploading. And they should be telling you in your LGB meetings what's been updated, and sometimes it'll be we haven't made an update, don't go read it again, but other times we really have made a big update, please do go and get the updated picture of what's going on. So I'm going to move on to the school development plan. This is set out a little bit differently. Traditionally, we did use the Ofsted framework, the Ofsted headings, but we've moved now to the trust improvement priorities. We've aligned this in with the trust development plan. So the trust development plan is always written first. Heads are then given that so that they can then apply what the trust is aiming towards to their schools. And that then would show us how a school contributes to the trust development plan. So there's questions sometimes about, well, why do you not use the Ofsted framework for the development plan? Ofsted has got one particular lens, it's got one particular thing that it's looking for. It's not everything that we believe is valuable in a school, and we do have our trust priorities and their strategic priorities, as you can see. And what we're trying to do is get all the schools to be driving towards the same development. It is about sharing best practices. It is about collaboration. It is about reviewing our practice, and it's certainly not a done-to exercise. The head teachers meet at conferences 3 times a year, and that really does shape what the trust development plan is for the next cycle round. It's worth just noting what the SDP cycle is as well. The trust will aim to have the trust development plan arranged, organised, identified way before Easter, so that the schools can do their analysis, their SWOT analysis is they're looking at their current school development plan, what still needs to move across, what are the trust development priorities that they will already been part of at the conferences. And they should then be able to put their SWOT into place and start formulating their school development plan at Easter time, so that it's written quite quickly after, because the cycle starts summer term. That's when the bulk of working and thinking about what you want your school set up to be for September is. So the cycle is the summer term through round to the Easter term. We're absolutely not in the place yet where we've got all the schools functioning like that. A lot of schools get their SDPs ready probably for the first LGB in autumn, but really you've missed a term of all the work that's going on. I'm not saying that they're not putting that work in, but the SDP is not necessarily reflecting that natural, more accurate cycle, really. So we are still working on moving the cycle for everybody to after Easter, summer term. It's written and it's live, and people are acting on it. Okay. So that's the school development plan. And again, I've taken some screenshots. This is from one of the schools current SDP, and you can see that we've got down the left hand side, you can just sort of see anywhere learning. That indicates which of the threads on the development plan ties to which trust development area. There's trust priorities, but you can also see up there we've got just flagging up what are the Ofsted links, what particular area would this quality of education thread be? Well, clearly it's going to be quality of education, but you can see here it's also behaviour and actions, because there's lots of crossover in the work that we're trying to do. It doesn't pigeonhole easily into a specific Ofsted strand, but we have signposted them here, and we've asked the heads to put on their versions their links into that. So there are areas that they're looking at to develop and improve the school, and each one has success criteria there. And the idea of that, as it says on that, is if the school, if the leadership team complete what they're trying to achieve, what will that look like at the end? How will you know? What is it you're going to see and hear and experience, and the students will tell you and the parents will tell you if you have managed to successfully complete what it is you're trying to do. So that's what you should see in the success criteria. And as governors, it's worth the scrutiny of, does that paint a clear picture that you could test against? So in attendance, you would be looking for figures. We're aiming for 96% attendance, and we're aiming for a P8 of under 10, that kind of thing. Is it better than last year that people are aiming for, and how are they going to get there? They should be ambitious, but they should always be achievable, but possibly just that little bit over the hill, so that people are pushing towards improvement. So it's worth checking, is that a success criteria that you could actually test yourself against at the end of the year? The next column over, the milestones, there is no point setting success criteria at the end of the year and then getting to the end of the year and seeing if you'd made it or not. It's important to stop along the road. So we call these the milestones. So the idea here is, okay, you've identified, you've painted a picture of what the end of the road will look like for success. If we're on the right track, what might that look like at Christmas? What might it look like at Easter? And people will decide when in the year the key points for that particular thread that they're working on would be. So you'll see different months here, but the idea again should be, is that something measurable, testable, that we could actually say, are we on the right journey? And if looking at this one, if in January the governors do not understand the L4L framework, as it says, then that's not a disaster, but you change your action plan. So the action plan you can see on the screen as well. That's a live, fluid thing. You stop, you take the temperature. If it's not where you want it to be, what needs to change? And you change your action plan. That's what you're after. You might change then the milestones. Sometimes whole stripes will come out and something else will come in. It's not fixed at one point in the year and has to stay there. It's live, it's dynamic. Schools should be evaluating where they are through the year and making sure that the development plan is still fit for purpose. So that's what we've got on that part of the screen, but the stripe moves further along the screen. So if on my next slide I move further over, you can see you've got the actions timescale still there, but we've come further over. And one key box to look out for is the one with the red lozenge around it. This is the impact box. It's the so what box. If a school has said we are going to improve attendance by 10%, it's going to be 97% at the end of the year. They've got their milestones in, they've got their actions in. What you should be seeing in this column with the red lozenge is governors have been introduced to a framework, it says in the actions. The so what changed as a result of that? What was different as a result of that? How have you moved the school on there? What has been the leadership impact for the action? And as governors, it's useful to check that column. Is it really impact, or is it a repeat of the action? Because it's very easy to drift into just describing what you did. That's actions rather than what was the impact. So if you're looking through that column and just sort of seeing more just descriptive, well, we had a meeting with parents. The brutal question is, so what? What was the impact? What happened? What differently? What was the change there? How are we going to see that? And that's scrutiny that leadership groups, local governing bodies should absolutely be homing in on, challenging where you just see description of action rather than impact in that one. And again, it's quite a small column. It grows obviously, but they shouldn't be writing big paragraphs. It shouldn't be chapter and verse. It should be short, sharp. This was the impact of this piece of work that's done. So it should be a readable document. Schools and leadership group where it's getting very big and righty and paragraphs and it looks like an English textbook should also be challenged. This should be a live working document that often is maybe updated during a leadership meeting. They go through maybe one of the threads and write in their very quick short sentences. You're not after chapter and verse, you're just after real focusing on impact. So that's our school development plan, and the bigger version of that runs just down on one page. As I say, some schools have chosen to split theirs up into each of the strategic priorities. So the next part of the school overview folder is the KPI, the key performance indicators, and these are all the measures for how do we know that everything is well in a school? What are the things that we should be looking for? And we've evaluated this one and changed it quite a bit. The focus for us, well, what is it we value? What is it we're trying to drive? What is it we're wanting schools to push towards? And if you measure those things, you suddenly put more onus and emphasis on it and you get change. So that's what we're looking at in this one. What are the areas that we want to move on, plus some important areas that you as governors will need to know and a school will need to know. And it's a way of a leadership group stopping every term to put the data in, and it makes you stop and think, oh, this looks higher than this. Why is this? I don't, from experience, think we'd spot everything if this wasn't in place. It's a mechanism for making you stop and look at what the metrics are for a school, I would say. So we've got, again, what I've done is gone through the secondary one. I'm just taking screenshots. So if you imagine all these next few slides running down the Excel sheet, I've just grabbed what's on there now. You'll see in blue the reference number. This has been put in to help you. So when you're in your meetings, you might get the PDF versions. You don't get the rows and columns that we see on Excel. So I've put in here the row numbers so that you can have your conversations. I'm looking at row 6 instead of somebody saying, oh, where is reading score? I can't see it. It's row 6. So that's what that column is, just to support you in identifying the bits you want to talk to quickly. So we've got recruitment. This is important because this is affecting funding. The number of students coming into year 7 or into early years or into sixth form are all important. Sixth form's a bit lower down, but these are crucial that you're not seeing falling roles. Why are you seeing falling roles? If you are, what's going wrong in the school that new numbers are leaving during mid-years or not choosing the school over other schools? So that's why we've got those kinds of things in there. Curriculum, the government still has the EBAC measures, so we need to be aware of what's going on there. And then the reading ages, this is a new area. We've broadened it out this year. This is a key focus for the schools. Literacy into year from primary into secondary is key. We know that. And there's a lot of work gone on this year in some products that have been bought. Lexonics you'll hear about, which is a reading programmer to bring up literacy levels. Bedrock testing to actually work out what the scores of students are. And what your standardized age score is the idea that at Key Stage 2, there should be 100 when they bring those Key Stage scores up. The standardized score should be 100. That's the government's aim. You've obviously got students above and below. You should be looking for, as a governing body, what are the strategies that the school is carrying out for the different scores? So a student who is at 70 needs a very different program from a student who is maybe 95. They're both below, but below for different reasons in different ways. And what you need to be scrutinizing is that there's not just one plan for the very weak. And that is where you would maybe put more emphasis and more effort and time and energy. But you shouldn't be missing out the ones that are 90, 95. They're not chronological age either. And what the bedrock testing does for us is test a child at any age through the school, and then it will put them into a standardized score for their age. So you can still use the common numbers 70 to 110, no matter what the age of the child is. So you're getting an idea of shift. What you should be seeing is that those standardized age scores for year 7 going in very quickly, because the schools should have tested those in the summer, mocked up possibly this last week or so, but their program should have started. A school that hasn't started its literacy intervention by your first meeting is off the pace. They should have started their program from the very start. They've worked with those year 6 schools. They know the students, they've coming up, they've tested them. The plan should have been waiting ready for them, but a different plan for your 70s than your sort of 95s, but a plan for both. And I wonder if in some places they might not have their programs up and running yet. So a little bit of scrutiny there would be really good. Over the year, the KPI obviously gets updated, and you're expecting to see those scores shift, more students moving up into over 100. The way the KPI is done for this one is that the schools will overwrite the data, but they should, in the commentary section over on the right hand side, the comment section, be talking about the change for you. So if they haven't done that, ask about, well, what was the data last time? How has it changed? Because they should be making that clear on the side. So those are some key areas that we've got at the top of the KPI. Moving down, we've got the workforce, which we've broken up more now. So you can see teaching associate staff split off, people who are leaving again split off, days lost to illness, and stage 1 meetings. Stage 1 meetings now fit with the language in the policies, and single central records, obviously crucial that the head is checking that that's an accurate record for safeguarding reasons. Moving further down, we've got performance in terms of teacher performance, and that again matches now the policy language. Is it informal, or are they on a performance improvement plan? Are they in disciplinary? CPD, the number of continuous professional development sessions that the school is running. There's one every Thursday, so there's already going to be 30 in a normal year. But how many other events are people putting on each month, each time? And the PDP, the Professional Development Plan, that is this year's title for appraisal. You'll have heard lots of different titles for this over the year, but this is appraisal. And rather than last year, it just said, are they on target? It's not, are they on target until the end of the year, but are they engaging with it? Have they done their Christmas review, their Easter review, summer review? So we're looking at how many people have moved their targets forward and had the opportunity for the meeting that they're entitled with their line manager. That's what you're looking for there. You're looking for 100%. There's no excuse or reason why it shouldn't be 100%. At each point, everybody should have targets set in the next couple of weeks, and then just before Christmas, just before Easter, summer term, everyone is entitled to their PDP review meeting, so they should be 100%. The initiative that you may have heard of that has started this year, Step Lab, this we believe is vital for improving teaching and learning this year. It's going across all the schools. We've just started phase 1, which are these positive drop-ins and shout-outs on the platform. It's tied in with TLAC, our Teach Like a Champion strategies that we're working on. So you should see, again, 100% of staff are engaged with this. There are metrics from the Step Lab tool that would tell the leader of teaching and learning how many have engaged or not. So there is a way they pull that percentage, but it should be 100%. If you're not seeing 100% there, you should be asking why and what's being done about that, because that's a straight across the trust. That is an initiative for absolutely everybody. That's how outcomes will improve with improved teaching and learning. Moving down, we've got some send measures there. We go down, we've got the MAT-I that I believe you've got a session on coming up in the next few weeks, so I won't below that one for them. But there's some detail about how many students are in the school and taking part in these provisions. You've got the personal learning plan there. That's students who are not in 25 lessons a week. They're possibly shortened days, they're possibly going out somewhere else. And it should be quite low. You shouldn't be seeing lots and lots of PLPs. They should be 6 weeks review. You shouldn't be seeing a student staying on a PLP all year without revision and review, which whoever is in charge on overseeing that on your governing body could go and meet the member of staff who leads on that and just check some of these things. Alternative provision, registered and unregistered. There are really good sometimes provision that's unregistered, sometimes not. You get cases in the news. They don't get checked by Ofsted. They don't have to do the safeguarding checks. They don't have to be qualified teachers. So it's a school's responsibility to be happy about the provision they're sending students out to. And it's just having an eye on how many of these have we got and how do we know these are good providers, and putting some scrutiny in there would be a good question to be asking. Schools should do their due diligence before a student goes. And moving on there, you can see 43, row 43, number of QA visits. We've got in there the quality assurance. That's a school's obligation. They cannot put a student out into alternative provision and that's that child managed then. It's the school's responsibility to check provision, to go check the child's happy, they're okay, they're turning up, they're attending, and that the education that they're getting is fit for purpose. They are going to get some outcomes as a result. They should be visiting regularly. So you should be seeing that number being aligned with how many different students are out on a provision. Are the QAs being done? It's a member of staff's responsibility to do that. They will have all their record keeping and things in place, but it could be that somebody checks upon that and just to check so that that is right and appropriate. Removals, you'll have seen those kinds of things before. Students needed to be taken out of a classroom. Those figures should be dropping. If we're getting our teaching strategies right, our TLAC strategies, if they're working, less students should be coming out of lessons. So you're looking for a correlation of, is it dropping? Obviously, internal, external, truancy and permanent exclusions, again, should all be dropping. We've got our MAT-I provision. We're working hard on strategies for students to stay in lessons. It is important, so you should be seeing that they're low and that they're falling. And then underneath you've got some breakdowns of the different types of students, just so you can see, is there disproportionate amount of SEN students being excluded, suspended? And why is that? What's the provision? What's missing in terms of the provision? What's the blind spot that people are not thinking about managing those students properly and providing the right diet for them? Those are questions that you might ask if you see that there's a disproportionate amount of SEN students to the general population going through suspensions and exclusions. I've just put in there CLA. We don't use LAC anymore. It's a child who's looked after, or previously PCLA, previously looked after, not LAC. That was some student voice at the local authority. They felt that it suggests that they're lacking in some way, so that's not a phrase that we use anymore. Okay. Moving on then, the WAVE system that I believe you're all familiar with, and there is a Learning for Life governors session in the next few weeks that will talk about the WAVE system, and how many students are on there is an important indicator of the school really thinking about different students. Really, there should be students on each of the WAVE, but what's happening and why are they on there is questions that you'd ask. Pupil planning meetings, that's as the local authority coming in to suggest any strategies that we've not considered with a child that we're struggling with that might end up down the suspension route if things don't change for them. There's already signs that there's problems. So that's what that one is about. And then the other ones are safeguarding and obviously the different types of incidents around the schools. We do now have a common benchmarking for these and a person in each school that judges whether an incident is or isn't a common person, if you like, in each of the schools. So we should get accurate data on those. And when you see a spike, there might be maybe 10 sexual based incidents. That's a big number. The question is, what is that? Was it one incident with lots of people or lots of different? And what is the school doing about it? As a result of getting a spike in that kind of data, the school should be stopping and saying, what is the training we need to do? What do we need to change about the way school is to now reduce that? And I do find that these are the questions that I ask of schools when I get this data so that I can go to the trustees and have that kind of background. They do spot those things and they do put programs in, but that's the kind of questioning that you could be putting in when you see spikes in numbers for those incidents. You know, what is the school doing about it so that we don't see that the next time through? Health and safety reportable incidents obviously is about keeping everybody safe. Absence, I've just explained there in the blue what 6 free school meal means and also what persistent absence means for you there. Both are obviously high in the news, high importance for the government as well as for the schools, new policy that the government's been brought in that we're applying. And so we should keep a real focus on absence and persistent absence. And what is the school doing about it? They should be reporting to your governing body and explaining what it is they're doing. But again, always bear in mind, you're not after descriptions of actions. It's the so what. Yeah, okay, I can see you've done this. So what? What was the impact as a result of that? What did you find? What's the next step therefore? That's the kind of thing to look for. We're looking for 96% above national for these as targets, really. And what are the school's blind spots when they talk about what it is they're doing? What can you see that they've not spotted? That's always a good piece of support, I think. Visits, there are 2 columns here I've put onto the same slide just to reduce our slide. So personal development down the left-hand side. This is a piece of work that is trying to move the aspirational side of thinking. Part of the trust development plan is something called the 500 weeks, 200 weeks at secondary school. That's about the number of weeks throughout the whole of the life of the child in a particular school. It came from a conversation about year 11s and there were 20 weeks left, and it's right, what is the 20-week plan? And it's, well, yeah, we do have a 20-week plan, we do, but why are we just focusing on a 20-week plan? They're here for 200 weeks. What's the 200-week plan in terms of career experience, in terms of being able to articulate what your aspirations are for the future, in terms of going out and visiting different universities and so on. So we're driving that agenda by measuring it, by measuring what we value. So every school should have the 200, 500-week journey on their trust development plan. This keeps it live and allows us to see what they're actually doing on the ground. So community events there, and then careers information and guidance, CIAG, on the right-hand side. Some of the things that we're driving forward with. Row 106, 107, this is about the top 15 universities for the course that the child has chosen. So we haven't decided these are the best 15 universities. These are the ones that you should be going to. That's not what it is. Someone applying for game design would go to a very different university, which would be top of the league for that particular course than somebody who's off to do PPE somewhere, for example. So it's for each course, is it in the top 15 in terms of ratings for that course? That's what that's about. This isn't about narrowing our expectations for people. And that's a one-off, fill it in September because it's about the year that are leaving, year 11 and 13 that are leaving. But you can see there, row 108, Year 7 and 11 students identified their future intentions. That should be 100%, because every child should be, if the school has its 200 weeks, 500 weeks mapped through, all students should have been given opportunities to think about their future intentions and have recorded that somewhere. So it should be 100%. You should be asking, why not, if it's not? And then we've got some voice. Are we making sure that we're asking for family voice, for staff voice, student voice, complaints? Again, that's aligned now with policy language. And beyond the parents' evening, what else are schools doing? We've asked schools very clearly to really focus in on parental engagement. We've done a lot of work with what is a key demographic in our secondary schools. The white working class boy is the title, and all the research says it's about relationships with the family. So if we're pushing that, we want to measure that. What are the schools doing? Should be in their development plan, but we should be promoting that by prodding them, if you like, through the KPI there. What is it they're doing that brings those families closer to the schools through the years? That's what we're looking for there. We've got some safeguarding bits and pieces. Initial contacts, that first phone call when you have an issue. MARFs are about multi-agency referrals, so social workers involved, police work with possibly more than one. The LADO, on that one, that's about things that have been raised about staff and possibly a safeguarding concern, and you have to ring the LADO. And often this is not a LADO's issue. This is school behaviour management of an adult. You can manage it like that, but the call will be logged, so you'll see if a call's been put through. You won't ever get the detail there. It's absolutely confidential, needs to know. But what you should be seeing in the commentary section is whether that was resolved. Is it? You'll see unsubstantiated, for example, or other titles. There's about 4 different ways of ending an investigation. You're looking for the outcome. Has that been resolved? If not, it will carry into the next KPI, and you're just wanting to know, has it been resolved? Is it done? What was the outcome? Most of the time they are unsubstantiated, or it's not a LADO issue, but you need to know that. So look out for that. Governance, so how many times you've been in, obviously that gives an idea of the engagement and whether we're getting you in. Your impact reports and your training, all important things for you to contribute to the KPI. And finance, it will just say yes or no. Is the budget on track for the year? It's important to know. So that's probably the biggest section, the KPI. And we move on to the school improvement record. This is a record of 3 meetings through the year. This is a meeting that the head teacher goes to, the chair of governors goes with them, and we sit with the executive team working through a pro forma that the head teacher completes before they come. Again, short, sharp, and they rag rate a set of categories. And then in the meeting, things are discussed, things are talked about, and the executive team will agree or disagree on the rag colouring. It'll be documented with both sets of colours. And at the end of that, there'll be agreements about what's next then, and how can the trust support, what can the exec team do, where can school support be provided from the school support team, which will come through trust, which will be add-on and paid for by the school. So it's a real development meeting to support the schools. Where are they now? Where do they need to go next? And it really does give everybody a clear idea of where a school is. So you can see this is the start of the autumn one. And I've not put it all in. I've just given you a little flavour, really. There are the headings down the left-hand side, but then we've homed in on what is it we're wanting to measure and drive. So it reflects the trust development plan, not Ofsted, the trust development plan. So we do start with quality of education, but as you go down, there are things we're talking there about the Shaw. How is the Shaw going? How is the 200 weeks going? It's what we're trying to move the schools on with, what we're all working towards. So it's not Ofsted headings, but it's a really rich conversation that the chair of governors, I do believe, walks away with a really good idea of where things are and where we believe we are, and whether there's alignment or not in terms of the head teacher's rag rating here and the trust rag rating. So the head fills their bits in in advance. They fill their bits on top of here, and then in the meeting, comments are noted down during the meeting. It's a long meeting. It's quite in depth, but it's really good conversation. How do they know where they are and the RAG ratings for each of the stripes going across? There is a criteria, and that's the one I was saying. Looking at the tabs, you've got the school improvement one and the success criteria next to it. So there's three categories you can see there: green, yellow, red. Obviously blue if it's blowing it out of the park. And they can use those criteria to decide where they feel they are. So it's not just plucking it out the air. There are criteria for each one of those. And the very, very last tab, these were all done this week. The head teacher will look at their data, their exam outcomes from either the June, July, or the the August, and they will fill in a bit of a pro forma about things that are really good, things that we're developing, why do we think X, Y, Z's happened, how accurate are predictions, and that's a page which then the key actions from that move to the first executive review for checking on how that's going. So it's absolutely focused on outcomes. I haven't given you a screenshot of it because it's a one-off every annual piece of work, but that's your last tab, which you can see all of these tabs if you've got access to the SOF. And I'm not sure I'm doing for time. Am I okay? Haven't gotten a thumbs up. Good, good. So here's our first slide again. These were the aims of the session. Hope I haven't gone too quickly. Do we have any questions? Have we answered all the aims? Is there anything I've missed?
So we've got one question from Andy Edwards, Alison.
Shall I come off share at this point?
Yeah.
So I can possibly see people. Okay.
So Andy's asked, as a governor, are we able to see our schools and trust benchmark? Probably sort of thinking about other schools and how their school can benchmark across against other schools in the trust. I think that's what you're asking, Andy.
So whether
because they'll only get one school, won't they, Alison? They'll only get their own sets off.
They will.
They won't know how that benchmarks across other schools in the trust.
So you've got national data that the school can provide, and the thing is, there's different contexts of each school, and it's not always helpful to say, well, these are doing better than these. There's often contextual information, so it's not always a good idea to benchmark against other schools. If there is any information that they want to know, are these reasonable scores, then we do obviously have every school's data, and also national data. There are websites that you can go and compare one school to another. Fisher Trust do one that's free open access to compare things with similar schools. You can actually filter for their similar size, similar demographic, to give you an idea of how one school is doing against some national benchmarks against other schools. That's possibly a better source than how are we doing against our other schools, because it's a small sample size and the dynamics and they're very different. Often our schools, it's not always fair. Unless you're looking at things like Progress 8 scores, and there's no reason why that isn't. It's a public thing. Ultimately, there is the DFE Compare Schools site as well. It's public knowledge. Things like Progress 8, I believe, is fair because it's a fair comparison, but some things not. So we don't overly share those kinds of things. I don't know if that's answered your question, Andy. Trends, right? Okay. So you've got on the KPI, if you look at that one, you've got last year's data on lots of the sets so that you can see if there's improvement or not. You can see each KPI through the year, so you can see a trend over time. It'd be interesting to know which bits you'd like to see a trend on, and we could provide some of that information. Yeah, just maybe check in with B and just say, well, actually, I'd quite like to know about this and this and this, and I can I can see what I can provide that does do that for you.
I'm just going to stop recording, actually. Sorry, I meant to do that.